So how come you stopped going to Zumba? Just kidding. We don't have to start the
Wow.
podcast like this.
Grilling me right on the pod immediately as we start out. That's a crazy, actually.
Yeah, well, I went to Zumba yesterday. Gotta say, even though they played Old Town Road again.
Gotta take my horse to the old town road. Wanna ride till I can't no more. I got the horses in the bag. Horse tack is attached. This whole movie is just horse tack is attached. Like,
It's true. No, but I don't know. You should find a way to start going again.
yeah. Maybe with the new year. We'll see.
Yeah, there you go. Do you have any New Year's resolutions?
No, I don't do that.
At all? You don't even have like things you want to accomplish in 2024? You don't have goals?
No, I don't have goals in life or like per year. I couldn't split them out.
Would you consider yourself aimless or directionless?
Yeah, I think I need some Thoreau in my life, to be honest with you. I need to make that my Bible.
God. I'm just saying, you set a goal, and perhaps you could have like a little bit of something to strive for.
Nah, I don't know. I think I'll just keep meandering through the same old mistakes.
That's cool, I guess. More power to you. But,
You're valid, right?
You're valid, yeah. Oh, God. Well, did you ever develop any New Year's Eve plans?
Nah.
Jesus, Ricky.
What?
Any listeners of this podcast are like, what the fuck does Ricky even do outside of this?
What the fuck does this guy do?
He doesn't watch movies.
I just sit and wait for the next podcast,
Yeah,
honestly.
you do. You're like a sim.
It's true. They're deleting the way out of the house. I can't get out. They deleted all the doors.
No, I know you get out at least once a week because you need to feed your cats.
True. I need to hunt and gather.
Yeah.
Hunt for good deals. Gather up 40 cans of cat food to bring back for upcoming winter week.
This is rough. This is a rough start.
Ooh. A little bit too personal of a look into my
Okay,
life.
all right. Well, did you watch any other movies this week? I know you were you asked for Rex to watch with your family for Christmas, so.
Yeah, we didn't watch any of those. I'm sorry.
That's okay. What did you watch?
Oh, the animated Grinch Stole Christmas.
Ooh.
Elizabeth loves it.
Yeah, she's
I
like
mean, it's
8,
not.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like a horrible movie, right? It's got some bangers, some good songs in it.
See, okay. I'm a Grinch aficionado.
Oh,
So
shit. Okay.
the fact that I was like, okay, I'm open to another, whatever, one of these like Dr. Seuss animated remakes. Fine, sure, cool.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that first off, the movie is kind of ass, but the fact that they cast Benedict Cumberbatch and they're like, use a boring American accent. Like, that's good casting for his normal voice for the Grinch. But instead he's doing like Chris Pratt drag in that movie. He's doing like
I didn't even realize it was Benedict Cumberbatch. I had no idea.
Exactly.
It was just like it was the most generic voice possible. That is kind of crazy, yeah.
Yeah, his normal
I guess
voice
it
is
is,
a
though.
really good casting for the Grinch, yeah, but instead he's doing like, yeah, just like a normal, like he's going out of his way to not have his normal voice, which is just nuts. It's a shitty decision. Anyway, I thought that movie was hot garbage.
I mean, nothing really happens in it, right? I mean, it's like essentially the same plot line, but it's like really subdued where
Yeah.
just Grinch comes, steals Christmas. One little girl, one single solitary person in the town that he's stealing Christmas from goes, "Oh, but Mr. Grinch, isn't Christmas about making other people happy?" And he goes, "You know what? I'm still gonna steal it. I'm still stealing it." And then everyone else, they had their celebration, Pahudore, and he's like, "You know what? I'm giving it back." And that's it. Movie over. It's a real short runtime, isn't it?
Probably. I mean, the original is like 20 minutes, but it's
I was gonna say, I feel like it's a tight 30, right? Like,
Anything is going to seem subdued after the Jim Carrey Grinch, though. That movie is like maximalism on high. So, I mean,
True.
any remake of the Grinch is going to be like, oh, where's the holiday like jubilation where they make Jim Carrey throw up from eating too much? You're like, the important plot beats are missing here.
No, that movie was ridiculously horny, the Jim Carrey version.
Dude, okay, yeah, it's so funny. I was looking up on Christmas Day, Christopher and I were like doing something, like doing a project, and we wanted to like throw on something that we had seen before, and I was trying to look up the original Grinch on YouTube, because I figured like that shit's got to be in the public domain by now. And instead, YouTube kept serving me like Martha May Whovier like fan cam videos, like YouTube shorts.
Okay.
The Christine Baranski where she's just all titties in that movie, and it's funny because that I definitely remember as a kid being like, you know, I was like 5 when that movie came out, but I definitely remember being like, I like this woman. I wonder what's going on here.
There's something appealing to me about this.
Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, Oedipus looks up from his grave like,
Oedipus? What the fuck are you talking about?
They mention Oedipus in this movie, specifically, which not in The Grinch, but in all He's Not to Allow.
I was racking my brain. You know, if you told me that they made an Oedipus joke in the 2001 Grinch movie, I would believe you. But
you know, I haven't seen it in a while. They might have, right?
Yeah, I was racking my brain like, do they make that joke? I can't believe I'm forgetting it, but no, they do. They do make a couple different cracks about various psychosexual things in this movie, which, yeah, I was pleased to hear. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, like switching gears onto this movie. This movie is like old. I mean, like, I don't know. It's like, wow. I get that it was like made in 1955.
This is the kind of cultural criticism people come to this podcast for. You're wow.
No, it's like, okay, there are some movies that you watch and they're like timeless in a way where you're like, oh wow, like this could be released today. This is not one of those movies. This is a movie that, like, if it was released today, I'd be like, well, what the fuck? Like, this is not, like, I guess it's the spectacle with it, but I'd be like, this is not a fucking movie. Like, this was
what?
Like a
really?
Screenplay. Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. I thought this movie is kind of timeless. It's timeless in its themes, and, like, I think it still looks incredible, but just, I mean, of course, like, the 1950s setting is different, but we'll get into it, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
This is We Want to Watch. My name's Lane.
My name's Ricky.
This is a podcast where we choose movies that we want to watch, whether they're culturally relevant, or we heard about them from other people, or we just want to watch them. Also, I should put a thing here. I'm sorry if you are an iOS listener and you can't listen to this on Apple Podcasts. I am completely cock-blocked by Apple from putting this up on Apple Podcasts for some reason. You just literally cannot create an Apple ID from a Windows computer for some reason for me. And I don't have any friends who have iPhones, and neither does Ricky. So, sorry. I'm trying my best. Stick with it.
Getting droid blocked over here.
Sorry if you're an Apple Podcast user. One day, it'll happen. But no, this week we're talking about All That Heaven Allows, which is a 1955 Douglas Sirk melodrama, romantic drama. I picked this movie. This was a Lane frame. I picked it for a couple different reasons. My interest in Todd Haynes, who's a modern director that Ricky doesn't know, but I'll explain to him in a second. He's the director of May December, which is my favorite movie of 2023, and one that I know you've heard about in our group chat a few times here. So that movie is kind of very, like, leaning into melodrama, and that's Todd Haynes' kind of his whole thing is the different settings and, like, using those heightened emotions to make commentary about, like, social movements and, like, just societal issues. And he actually has a movie that I've been thinking about watching called Far From Heaven that was a kind of like a pastiche to a bunch of these Douglas Sirk movies. And so I knew that it was most copying All That Heaven Allows. And so I figured I'd watch the original first. And so it seemed also like it has a huge cultural imprint. I hear about this movie a lot. People reference this movie a lot when they're talking about like 50s melodramas. It's kind of like the quintessential one. So I figured it would be a good one for this podcast. And I'm glad we watched it because I really liked this movie a lot. I think it was not just like a good movie, but also, yeah, just one that you can really trace the influences it's had, I think, through the decades to today. So
for sure. I mean, I'm not going to say I didn't like it, because I did like it. It was a good little movie, and like a nice Christmas flick too. But
yeah.
I cannot see it as anything other than like it's a good movie in the way that like a Christmas Story, the one where they return all the money after George goes on like.
Are you talking about It's a Wonderful Life?
It's a Wonderful Life. Jeez, wow, yes,
yeah, wow, woof. People here, people at home are screaming at you.
Yeah, they're tisking right now.
Yeah.
Same level as like It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, very similar vibes, at least to me. I think it's just like the way that people talk in both movies are so. Even It's a Wonderful Life seems more modern than All That Heaven Allows. I don't know if that's just me. If the movie's meant for like different audiences. If I'm too lowbrow for it.
Okay, when you say modern, what do you mean?
Just like more recently released, I guess. Which, let me look up when It's a Wonderful Life came out, because I think
Wonderful Life is 45. Like, it could be.
Yeah, 46. It almost feels as though the dialogue from this movie is like from It's a Wonderful Life came out more recently.
Interesting. Okay. What do you think about Citizen Kane? Because I don't remember you having similar takes on Citizen Kane, and that movie is, older than either of these.
Yeah, no, Citizen Kane also, I don't know what it is with this movie, but, like, it seems like there are a few, like, I'll say, like, intelligentias. I don't know. There's, like, a few, like, supposedly, like, scholarly characters that they're like, all right, we're just gonna have this character, like, it's just, like, psychological buzzwords, like, every time they're on screen.
Oh, sure.
And, like, so, like, the daughter was one of them, and then there was just, like, some background character at one of the parties, like, one of the guys. Anytime he was on screen, he was saying the most, like, ridiculous, out-of-pocket shit, which, like, but it didn't matter because he's saying it like, he's using just, like, a bunch of psychological jibber-jabber about it. I don't know. It was, like, really silly to me.
I guess, like, part of the difference might be that this movie is so, like, the setting and time and social context of this movie is so relevant to it. Whereas, like, Kane is kind of timeless in that, you could you could adapt that story to today and you wouldn't have to change too much. Same with It's a Wonderful Life, whereas this, it's like the very specific, like, class dynamics at play and things like that. Those have changed, and you would have to do a little bit more to update the story. It's kind of funny. In Far From Heaven, which is like the kind of remake-ish that Todd Haynes did of this, I watched that yesterday. They kind of just update the dynamics a little bit, but it's still set in the 50s, so it's like a little bit more ugly or like edgier, I guess, of like things going on behind the scenes in the way that this movie kind of has subtext of or hints at, where that movie makes it more explicit. But it still does take the 50s setting, and it does still kind of play with some of the same ideas, if not, the exact same, delivery vehicles, I guess. So,
okay. Yeah,
I can see why you would think that this is, like, dated, I guess, in that way. But I do think it still plays great. I mean, you still...
Yeah, no, for sure. But, like, even the main conflict comes down to, like, she's like, oh, I can't marry you. What will the neighbors think? And it's like the guy's just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really care about that. Like, listen, you want to marry me or you don't, right? Like,
is that all you got from this? Oh, man.
No,
Ricky,
I feel like all I got from it. I mean, well, okay, all right. I'll say, like, it appears to me as though the main conflict is she feels certain obligations, right, to her kids, to, like, the social standing that she has within the community. Like, he's not willing to budge about that. He's like, I don't care about that at all. I don't give a shit. Like, this is between you and me. Why does anyone else or, like, their opinions have to be involved? He's not budging on that fact, and she's too swayed by the opinions of others for that to matter. At least in the beginning, right? Like, the initial conflict. Is that. Am I, like, terribly off base?
No, I mean, I don't disagree that that's the main plot, but, like, there's so much here subtextually, I think, of, like, the specific like ennui that she's experiencing, and the like the doldrums, and like how she longs for like a more passionate life. I mean, they at points this does become explicit, where like when she first goes out with Harvey and she comes home from the country club party, and Harvey's like, I know that, you don't really care about sex anymore, or whatever he says to her, so we should get married. And she's like, oh. Or like even her daughter said, when the daughter character was making me laugh out loud. It was so funny. Like every time she takes off her glasses to like deliver like the, Freudian line or whatever, that was really, really funny.
Yeah. No, I'll give you that. I thought that it was so silly though. Like, I don't know.
I think it's supposed to be silly. I think it's supposed to be a little...
Yeah, I didn't know if that was just like a 50s, like, it was like a archetype. Like, okay, all right. If that was considered normal. Okay, all right.
No, I think it's supposed to be kind of comedic at times, especially with her, and then, with the irony. This thing is like dripping with irony, and so I think...
Did they have that in the 50s?
I hate you. I knew you were going to say that.
Well,
no, Go ahead.
I will say, like, the TV scene in particular, when it's like zooming in slowly on the TV, and like you see a reflection in it, and it's like her world's like crashing down. Like definitely pretty like explicitly, like that was like pretty like, explicit, where it's like
those visual motifs are like present throughout the whole thing. Like the framing, like boxing her in is like very, very present. And like boxing her in with the TV that you already mentioned, but like through windows, through mirrors, the scene where we're first introduced to her kids, and she's like at her jewelry box, and you can see her in the reflection of that. It's just, I mean, there's lots of like...
The fireplace and the mantle when they're out there.
Yes, yeah. Tons of that. And so there's lots of like visual storytelling, like as opposed to narrative. Like, yes, the main plot is there, but then all of these things that are kind of commenting on the discrepancy between the life she wants to live and the life she feels trapped in. I think that there's a lot there, that I think makes this a lot more interesting than just this is kind of what I meant last week when I mentioned, as I get older, I'm more open to like watching just like straight dramas that don't have like thriller elements or things like that. Like, whereas when I was a kid, it's like, why would I watch a movie about like a woman who feels sad she can't get married to this guy? Like it just, but now that, I don't know, it's just, there's more to movies than that, I guess. And so it's something that I've enjoyed, I guess, as I've gotten older, is like indulging in those heightened emotions through, visual storytelling, or like elements of the movie that are, or like color. This movie is so colorful and beautiful.
Kind of surprisingly so for like the time, right?
I
mean, is it just me?
I kind of disagree. I mean, yes, there's a lot of movies that are like, seem more muted or grainy or like, whatever, but like, there are movies that are quite colorful from this time period. It's not like color was invented in the 60s, right? And I know you're not saying that.
Right.
But...
No, yeah. But I guess I never really had a concept for how they would work with, like, color compositions and how, like, effectively they could employ that, like, this early. Because the movie is pretty good at, like, guiding you through the use of color, especially just, like, the color on the trees. They have, like, a nice set that they're working with. I don't know. I mean, they did a really good job with that sort of stuff. This sounds weird, but like every scene feels very distinct. Like,
no, for sure. The set is dressed very particularly. Like, they have very meticulous, like, eye for like what colors are important to the story here and what are we trying to signify. I think that's totally intentional, and we should watch some like old movies at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you seen Cabinet of Dr. Caligari? Sorry to cut you off now like a third time.
No.
It's a black and white movie from, I want to say, the 20s. It's kind of like a horror, whatever, drama. We should watch that. I think you'll be very impressed by like the use of color and lighting and shadows and things. I mean, that movie is like so influential. You'll watch it and you'll be like, oh, this is what every movie is ripping off. like tons and tons of movies. Anyway, it's, it's kind of funny that like old movies get a rap for being like boring and black and white and whatever, like ugly or like, not dynamic.
Yeah, I just didn't think that they would have the like sense for that already, right? Like it seems like if a new technology was to come out like today, there'd be a lot of fumbling around and a lot of like misuse. Almost like CGI, like how it's like it came out and people were like, oh, like we can save a ton of money, and then like before the technology got really good, and then just made a slew of like movies.
I don't know, man.
Ooh.
No? CGI has only been around for what, 50 years. I mean, at this point, not even like mid 80s probably. And think of Jurassic Park, which is, I mean, I know that movie is like the gold standard, but that movie was probably only around 15 years into CGI, like really being developed, in the way that we know it now. And like,
and I mean, that movie looks good. Yeah.
Yeah, that movie looks fucking incredible. And like, when you think of this movie, 1955, I mean, movies had been around, filmmaking had been around for 40 years at that point. So
yeah, but when was color filmmaking around? I guess I always just assumed that it was a very sort of, maybe not recent thing, but 1955 seems like right on the cusp, like a very early color film. And I guess it wasn't, because it had like a lot of color. I don't know.
I think
like It's a Wonderful Life was 46, and that was not shot in Technicolor. So
well, Technicolor is different than just like color cinematography, but like, think of The Wizard of Oz, and that's the 30s. So I'm sure that like color photography, and plus, I mean, even if you don't know, even if color filmmaking hadn't been around for very long, I mean, color photography, theater, like all of those things were still, like, people still knew what color was. You know, I'm not saying you don't, but like,
no, I get that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess I'm not as surprised, but it is still like employed really, really well here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
I was more impressed than anything. Yeah, just I don't know. Maybe that's just like my own like.
No.
Biases coming in, but
it's I think it's an impressive looking movie for sure. I don't know that it's that unique. I will say this movie does at the time when it was released, this director was kind of like known for making like women's movies, and I use that with like air quotes, like dramatic, like, or melodramatic movies, like about women's issues, and women, you know, would go to see them, and they, you know, they're emotional, like all of these things. They were kind of like discounted. And so I think part of that too, yeah, probably the cinematography at the time, or like the different visual storytelling techniques were probably also seen as like corny, or like for women, you know, or whatever it might be. So that could also be part of it. You know, when we think of the prestigious movies from like this time period, like the classic canon, it is things that are a little bit more staid, or like not as like lush in this way, or subtextual.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure. And I mean, I guess that does come down to the difference, because this does, like, it reminds me of like a TV show, sort of like Walker, Texas Ranger, or at least one that would come on
sure.
around the same time, or like on the same channel, yada yada. And I don't know, there's something about the dialogue too. Like, I keep coming back to this. Like the main characters, Carrie and
Ron.
What's her new love? Yeah. Like, they're the only ones that really seem like people, I guess. I don't know. They're the only ones that like talk to each other. Everyone else, it feels like they. I mean, Carrie's one friend talks to her, but then like the one woman who spreads rumors.
Mona. Mona.
Yeah.
She's the worst.
She like talks at people. Like, every single one of her lines is delivered like, she's like, "Oh, well, I'm glad Carrie could find someone." And like it's just like that, for sure, every single time. Yeah.
But then Ron's friends are shown with like humanity. Like, they don't talk to each other that way. They talk to each other very, like, again, I think it's very straightforward in like the delivery of, you know, what these different people are trying to symbolize, of like the very reserved and like about appearances, superficial, you know, rumor spreading people of the country club, versus like Ron's salt of the earth, reads Thoreau, like friends, you know what I mean? Who do like natural things, and like they'll eat, you know, meat cooked by the fire and whatever, and have a hoedown or whatnot. So
a little hootenanny.
Yeah, love a hootenanny.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I guess it is just supposed to sort of highlight the differences between the socialites and the, I don't know what to call the non-socialites in this case. But like
the lower class, yeah.
The lower class. Even the like quote unquote lower class, like, these people are living pretty good lives out here. I don't know. They're like,
right.
They're like, "Oh, Ron don't care much for money, but he like owns a business, has
he has a huge nursery."
Like 2 properties. Like, because he just bought the mill, and he's gonna fix up like this like shitty little mill that he found. It's like, all right, like, he's kind of got mad dough. I don't know why,
but he's
everyone's
not
hating on him.
I think this is kind of why this movie does feel a little bit more dated. Isn't because, like, I don't think the implication isn't that he has no money. He has less respectable, like, blue collar money. He doesn't come from old money. Like,
Yeah,
I think part of it is that, yeah, he's not blue blooded. Yeah, like, I think the implication is that he inherited some of it from his dad too, right? Because his dad owned the gardening business. So, like, I think that there's part of it is like, oh, like, you know, he has to, like, work for his money, and also, like, his friends do live in the woods and have hoedowns. Like, I can see why, you know, nowadays it's not as well. No, that's, you have to, like, put yourself in the mindset of this movie in the 50s, or, like, update it to now. It would be like, you know, a bunch of fucking artists living in a co-op, you know, in a, like, a selling whatever, like, beads and shit. I don't know. Like, you'd have to, like, you'd have to adapt the circumstances. But I don't think it's so much about, like, the literal amount of money that you have the way it would be now.
The way they were talking to her, though, like, I don't know if it was Carrie's kids or if it was, like, Mona, or, like, Carrie's one actual friend. But they were like, oh, like, are you sure he isn't just looking for a woman with money? And I mean, obviously Carrie was like God no, heavens no, heaven forbid, forsake the thought. But, like, they really made it seem like he was, like, a gold digger essentially. And
well, I
like,
think
every time we
the
see him
problem...
he's in, like, nice suits. Like, I don't know, he's dressed well. Like,
I think part of the problem is back in the day you could probably, like, the difference in their age was probably more pronounced. But nowadays, it's like there's, like, a 5-year age difference between them, or, like, maybe 8. It's not as serious. He is an old looking, like, 25. Like, Rock Hudson looks like, at the end, this man is leathery already. Like, at the end when he's laying down on the couch, like, he's got city miles on him for sure.
So I wanted to comment on that especially because, like, they make a really big point of it. They're like, oh, like glad Carrie could find such a younger man. And I'm like, this guy looks just as old as everyone else here. Like, he's not, like, graying already, right? But, like... Yeah. I mean, by far, he's the best-looking man in the cast, outside of maybe Ned. But, like, everyone else...
Who the fuck is Ned?
Her son, Carrie's son. Isn't he
Ned?
Oh,
okay, yeah. No, I just didn't remember his name. I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, but everyone else, like every other guy in particular is just
they're all, like, old, like, Mr. Moneybags types. Like, they all look like they they all belong to the board of directors of the local bank or something.
No, like, literally, exactly. I don't know.
No, I don't disagree.
Which I guess is a part of visual storytelling as well. Sorry, just
sure. No. I do think, I think that if this is another thing where you just have to kind of put yourself in the mindset of the 50s, of, like, the women or the men that she's expected to date now are all old as fuck, right? And even in the very beginning, Sarah, her friend, says to her, like, oh, he's 40, so he won't look at anybody over 18, you know? So, like, that expectation is there. And so, again, it's another thing that doesn't really translate. Whereas if you made this movie today, and it was, like, a 25-year-old with maybe, like, a 55-year-old, or, like, you know, something like that, you would, you know, it would be more pronounced. But I think the taboo of it is still there, you know, even if it's, like, a little bit silly today to think about, like, a 7-year age gap being a big deal.
Yeah, well, because, like, Ron with Carrie, they look, like, pretty similar in age. I mean, Carrie honestly looks a little younger than him, in my eyes, right?
She is. She looks great. She's like the fact that she's supposed to be like an old crone. She's like 38. This actress is in this movie. Like, she's just, you know, hang it up, sis. You're old news at this point. But she looks
that's
fantastic.
Insane. She's so fucking beautiful in this movie. And then, well, what's her face? I don't remember her name,
Sarah?
but, like, the cousin of
the
friends of
blonde.
Ron. Yeah,
right.
yeah. Like, she seems, like, particularly
19.
young. Especially next to Ron, right?
Yeah.
Like, when she, like, comes and picks him up, I was like, that's a really weird, problematic age gap. Never once thought that with Ron and Carrie. Like, I don't know.
Well, so, just pivoting a little bit, like, Rock Hudson, I mentioned last week, he's the actor who plays Ron.
Right.
He was a closeted to the audience or the public gay man in the 50s and 60s, and he was like, you know, we don't have leading men anymore, but, like, he was, like,
What happened to the leading men?
Our actors are in crisis, but we don't
True.
have we don't have these, like, this type anymore, but he is very much the, chiseled jaw, like, handsome, like, sensitive rom-com or, like, romantic drama guy, like your typical leading man back then. And so to watch this movie and, yeah, like, see him kind of doing, like, this performance of, like, very heterosexual, like, dreamboat type, it's very funny just knowing that, not funny, but, like, ironic. It adds to the irony of this movie, knowing that he is, putting on a front even in this movie, the actor is. The subtext of that, I think, adds a lot to the taboo of it all. And so, yeah, the fact that he's, like, he even seems older than he is, he's, like, projecting all of that. Like, all of that goes into this performing, I think, in a really interesting way. So when they're talking, they're in the car at one point, and he, like, or she says, like, I don't remember what they're arguing about. She says something like, "Oh, you just want me to be like a man," or he says, like, "All my male friends do this,"
Yeah.
and she's like, "Oh, you want me to be a man?" And he's like, "Well, only in that way." And it just, like, it hits with a certain, like, twinge of irony again, knowing that like, background. So
He did have that, like, sardonic smile on his face when he says it too, like, only in that one way.
Yeah,
Winks
yeah.
at the camera.
Yeah, people just looked older back then, though. You also, like, they just, the smoking, the hairstyles, the lead,
paint. Yeah.
They were squinting because they were seeing in color for the first time. I mean, the whole thing.
No, I mean, must have been a really, really huge fucking shift in the paradigm when color was invented.
Yeah. Did you ever watch movies in school? I know you're, well, besides your Wes Anderson English teacher, like, in like, English class, did they ever show you, like, like, social commentary movies?
I guess I couldn't name one for you. Maybe not, like, timepieces. I don't want to call this, like, a timepiece, but, like, the fact that, like, you do have to sort of understand a bit about, like, the time in which it's taking place, and it doesn't really translate one-to-one to today. I would sort of say that, like, maybe not anachronous, but like, it's a little bit of a timepiece, or a period piece, I guess.
I was gonna say timepiece.
A timepiece is a watch, right?
This
right.
Rolex, yeah.
Yeah, a period piece is what I'm trying to refer to.
Yeah, I got you. I guess while I was watching this, or maybe afterward, I was thinking, like, in English class for me, there were several years where we did discussions of, like, McCarthy, or, like, we read The Crucible, for example, and like, kind of talking about, like, 1950s, like, anti-communism and the Red Scare. Like, I just remember that being, like, a recurring thing in English classes in middle and high school. And so and we would sometimes watch movies that were either about those topics or, like, adaptations of those books or plays or whatnot. And I just was thinking that this would have been a good, like, I feel like this would have been a good movie to kind of show and talk about some of those things. It's a little bit, it's not too edgy, for kids or teens or anything like that, but maybe it would bore people more. But I remember we watched Good Night and Good Luck, which is, have you ever seen that?
No. Is that where the guy says, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn"?
No.
Different one? Okay, all right.
Why are you hosting a movie podcast?
What?
That's Gone with the Wind. No. Good Night and Good Luck.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Ayo! Caught him!
Thank you for yelling into the mic. Maybe you should give a damn.
Alright, fair.
Good Night and Good Luck. It's about Edward R. Murrow, who was a journalist. He, like, talked to, or kind of, like, not crusaded, but he stood against, like, Joseph McCarthy, the, like, witch hunts in the 50s and stuff like that. And so it's just, like, a very kind of straight drama about that story and, about those events at the time. And I just remember watching that, and I've watched it again since then and been like, God, I can't imagine how bored I was in high school. But I'd like to think that something like this movie, like All That Heaven Allows, maybe would have been a little bit more interesting, if not as factually based, to deliver some of those same themes. Not exactly one-to-one of, like, Red Scare, but, I mean, there's definitely themes of, like, nonconformity and all of that here, so.
For sure. I'll say, I think my schooling was structured a little bit differently. We had a unit on, like, the American history, or, like, on American history in general, and in my social studies class. But like, I had that like ninth grade, and then every other social studies was like, well, I didn't have it senior year. I had psychology, but then it was like world history, and I think 11th grade was world history, and then 10th grade, like, I don't know, I just screwed around. I don't even remember most of that year.
Nice.
I think it was more like military interventions around the world, because my teacher was like a military guy. He did a really good job with it because he understood like
imperialism.
The impacts of imperialism. Like, not to sound like, I don't know, weird with it, but like he got that a lot of what he did was sort of like, because he was like rank and file. He got that like a lot of what he did was like maybe not the most morally ethical, but he was like, well, like, end of the day, I followed orders, right? That's what I was supposed to do. And he sort of gets into like in what ways that can be bad, but it, like, I mean, I'm straying from the point here. Like,
we've lost the plot. It's fine.
We've lost the plot so far.
This is an easy listening podcast more than anything, right?
Facts. Yeah, they put this on in elevators. It's easy listening. But yeah, very far from the sort of the context where we would really watch movies in a lot of my sort of social studies classes, at the least. And my English classes were just off the wall with what they showed us, at least in my eyes. I would say Wes Anderson was the tamest of what my English teacher has shown me.
What else did you get shown besides Wes Anderson? Because now I'm curious. I feel like Wes Anderson's like it's an inspired choice for an English class. I could see you like pulling some good themes and things and like literary devices from those movies, but what else?
I mean, a lot of films whose names I don't know. We saw a lot of like, there were a lot of sort of French films, not like full films, but sort of short films, like 14 minutes, 20 minutes or so. A couple things
That's
from
fun.
like the UK. Yeah, he was pretty like widespread with what he showed us. He sort of used those as supplements a lot of times to music. It was honestly pretty cool. A lot of his teaching was like music based, where he would like put up the lyrics to like a song. He would like have the song playing in the background, and he would just be like, "All right, so like, what do you guys think they're trying to say here?"
That's cool.
Yeah, and it'd be like, "Who are you?" And it'd be songs that like people know, right? And he'd sort of like mix in older songs with like more recent songs, like a decent bit of like Lana Del Rey and just like random shit like that. He was a pretty quirked up English teacher, but I don't know. He did a really good job with it because it helped us like engage with the material more, at least in my mind.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like, I don't know if he would have shown something. Actually, I guess he did show a lot of things with a lot of subtext to it. If he did show a movie like this, I would not have picked up on 80% of the subtext, because I would just be like, yeah, she just doesn't want to get married. Like,
yeah,
like I said
think
at the
that's
beginning,
normal.
right?
Yeah, I think that's normal. Like, I mean, yeah, I feel like as a kid or as a teenager, you're only just learning about those types of literary devices, but you don't maybe necessarily think to apply them to movies and things like that. So I think that's pretty normal.
I mean, I'd say even now, just like watching it, I didn't like I maybe don't quite get the social commentary themes. Like I kind of understand it, right? Like I can notice some of the like oddities which occurred. I guess I don't have a good frame of reference for other movies of the time to be able to see whether it's just like a product of the time, or if it's like, or like what's intentional, right? So it's difficult for me to sort of parse the message. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it can be both too, right? Like, I think, if you make a movie today and you're making a commentary on, even if it's the same kind of dynamics of like class or gender and women's roles, things like that, I think you can depict those things and also maybe make subtle commentary on them, and it becomes blended. And I think, that's normal. I'm trying to think of like a good example from this or from another movie.
I think especially with like social constructs, it's difficult to like decouple them from the time period in which they're set, right? Because it's so closely linked.
Yeah. Well, I think too, this movie, it does depict like so much of the irony is about showing like she has this ideal life. Like everyone at the country club is constantly talking about how she's like a great, like homemaker and she's so beautiful and like she has these great successful kids, but at the end of the day she's unhappy. You know, she's not fulfilled.
Right,
so
right.
you're depicting both the like this like 1950s like image of, you know, perfection and the suburbs and all of that, and then obviously this like big empty cavernous house that she lives in where she's like at home playing the piano and looking at herself in the reflection of, you know, of the glass. And like I feel like it's even though it's not coming out and she's not like, I'm so unfulfilled in my life, like I wish I had, you know, someone that had passion for me.
Like she says like in words like people will like make comments to her and she just goes like, oh yeah, plenty of time in the day.
But she's not coming out and saying like I am unfulfilled. Like she's not, you know, in that way. And so
right. I mean, those with eyes to see. I think it's pretty like she is like pretty unfulfilled. I feel like she says that to her friend as well, like pretty early on. Like she just straight up said, like when they were meeting for lunch in the beginning. I don't know. Her friend like stops by and then like immediately leaves. But
it's in the beginning because it's when she comes by for lunch and she can't stay, and she's she does say like, oh, I have so much time. I mean it's meant to So it's more subtle than if she was, you know, delivering a monologue about how unhappy she is, you know.
Oh, okay. That's just what, like looking out a window while the camera pans away, and the voiceovers.
Or if she pulled her friend to the side and did say like, you know, I'm really unhappy and I would love it if you could hook me up with, you know, this caked up gardener or something.
Have you seen this hunk over here?
I like he doesn't really do much for me in the face, but like he you know, he's got a donk, I'll say. Like in the very beginning, especially when it's like
he's got
it's crazy.
Dog. Fucking New Dog City over here. I don't know what to tell you.
Mario on my podcast?
In my Odyssey?
Yeah, thank God. Did you play Mario Odyssey?
Yeah.
Fucking great game.
Let's do the Odyssey. Let's get another copyright strike. That
was so funny to get that email immediately, like almost like seconds after it published. It was like YouTube's like, "Hey, we want to watch your video's banned in Russia."
Hey,
only
just
Russia,
so you're
though.
Aware, like, fuck all of your Russian listeners. We don't actually mean that, Russian listeners. We appreciate you, although
we don't have any
Russian
government.
We don't support you.
We don't have any Russian listeners, so. We have like the furthest east we have is like it was like Belarus, but yeah, it's we're not that widespread yet. Mostly America.
That's not too bad. Yeah, okay. Well, you know, the
I'm sure
the
it's just
cultural
some like
victory will slowly take over, right? Like,
I'm sure it's just like some whatever podcast scraping website or something that just like auto plays. You know, I doubt we have anybody in Belarus listening
that like
to our
automatically
podcast.
Makes TikToks out of every podcast that's ever released and plays it next to fucking Subway Surfers. It's just
great.
Clips of us out there saying the most unhinged shit with like 3 extra videos playing. It's like Minecraft, Subway Surfers, ASMR soap videos,
Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
Be great.
They're all copyright struck.
I do think that he comes across Ron in this movie. I do think he also comes across as not just caked up but also poor. I think he kind of reads as poor.
Wow.
Like in the context of the time. Like the way he talks is different, you know, the way he's styled is different. Like you said, he does wear suits and things, but that's not how he dresses normally, right? So I do think it's a little outdated compared to now, but like of course it's going to be because it's about the social moment of the time.
I'd say the only point where it comes across as apparent to me at least was in the car, right? Any scene that you see him with his car, he's driving around the like work vehicle, and like people definitely like Mona like made a comment on it, maybe not a comment about it, but like she definitely saw his car and was like, Kirby tree business, huh?
That's how she places that they're seeing each other.
And then when like they're going to the party, Carrie even was like, hey, like, we could take my car, you know, like, no big deal. And then he's like pulling out the busted Camry, and he's like, "Ah, come on, like, what's wrong with this, right? My car's right here already." But I guess to be the same as like a contractor taking their work van.
Yeah, that's true. Little gauche to do that.
Yeah.
I think also part of the reason there's so much stigma, in addition to the class and the age difference thing, is that he's such a like hard-headed guy. Like he's like, you know, very much like I made the joke, he's into Thoreau, but also he kind of the part that makes you like him the most or the least in the movie is that he's so like you know, he's going to do his own thing. He's, you know, very like almost ego driven, I would say, or like he's very like, I mean, you could read it as like self-obsessed, but not self-obsessed, but just, you know, he doesn't want to submit to the approval of others. And so, you know, even though at the end when she's like, you know, my kids are saying they're going to disown me if we get married. And he's like, so what? Like, okay, buddy.
Yeah. No, like,
I get
it's
that,
really weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, what, you can't live for me? You gotta care about other people? And it's like, yeah, I mean, like, that's what, like,
she
life
does have
is,
two
right?
kids.
Like,
yeah.
yeah, like, oh, a social responsibility? Like, come on.
Yeah.
And she wasn't even being, like, too demanding. She was like, oh, what was it?
Let's wait a little bit. She wants to wait to delay their marriage. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was like, oh, could you, like, maybe move into the house at all? And he's like, that changed me, darling, and I can't be changed. And it's like, well... I mean, you could move in for a little bit, right? Like, it's not going to kill you here, buddy. One of my favorite, like, it's kind of a meme quote, but like, it's a quote all the same. Is like, to be loved is to be changed.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like he's like just completely refuses that. Like, and says it outright. He's like, you can't change me.
Well. He does fix up his mill. He does fix up the old mill to live in there with her. So, like, I think he's moving toward being domesticated, to use, like, a kind of whatever term. But, like, he's still too hard-headed about, like, you did fall in love with this woman who is from the suburbs and does, you know, like to do suburban housewife things, presumably. So, I mean, you know, we don't get a lot of, like, her... we get a lot of interiority of the things that she's feeling stifled by, but we don't really see a lot of what she wants beyond passion and like a life with him. She does, you know, talk about gardening, you know, and wanting to get into that. But, you know, I think this movie does end on kind of an open-ended note, in the sense that I don't necessarily think that they would last forever, right, as a couple, because of, I mean, of course a movie isn't going to show them like hashing out their communication issues, right? But
right.
It does seem almost like, you know, she is chasing after this passion that this man could give her, but she's going to have to sacrifice, tragically, have to sacrifice all of these other things about her life. You know, of course, like her kids, you know, getting married and traveling and stuff, that's going to lessen the blow of that. But like almost all of her friends and, you know, her former kind of like social engagements and things like that, like I think that makes this movie have less than a happy ending, because it is, you know, kind of hinting at like she can't have both worlds, and that's the tragedy of the time.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, more passion, more energy, more passion.
Oh my god. You know, you want to talk about things that'll date something. How about we date this fucking podcast with your specific memes? Jesus.
Well, I want people to be able to tell when the podcast came out by the week just from listening. I completely forget now. Oh, yeah, the...
more passion, yeah.
More passion, more energy. The choosing between, like, her previous life and the life that she wants to sort of grow into, I guess I'll say. Yeah, like, she loses the socialite outing bits, but, like, she seems bored in all of those. It's just her, like... And again, like, I guess this is sort of, like, the social commentary that they're getting at, but it was literally just, like, her walking by multiple rounds of people going... Oh, Carrie! Oh, Carrie, so good to see you. Like, she never really engaged with anyone in the socialite parties outside of Howard, who, like, just tries to shove his tongue down her throat, so... I don't know.
It's a different guy. It's not...
Oh, different guy? Okay, I thought it was a different guy.
I think, yeah, it's, because Howard... Or no, it's Howard and Harvey. I'm sorry, I got them confused. Okay. Harvey is, like, the super old guy at the beginning that's, like... we should get married because we just want to be friends or whatever. And then Howard is
Yes,
the one who's
yeah.
creeps on her.
Yeah. Oh, and then also when Ron
Punches him.
assaults Howard,
Yeah.
he sat him down and was like, "Hey, why don't you sit there, bud?" And
Yeah.
everyone's like, "Oh my god, he almost killed him!" And it's like, wow,
Yeah.
not really, right? Not even close to really, right?
Yeah. Well,
But
okay, so
they're
here's...
oh, this brute! Come on, come on! He's just taking a kiss from Carrie. No big deal. Why is this guy getting so worked up?
Yeah.
It's all right, eh.
Well, an interesting commentary I've read about this movie is that, or from modern day viewers that I've seen, is they're reacting as if he's black, which I think, this movie probably wouldn't have gone there in the 50s. That would have been really, really, really taboo, I think, for the 50s. But that is one of the things that Far From Heaven does do, is make the Ron character a black man instead. And so, there's that added kind of, all of that, racial context added there. And so there isn't a scene just like that one in this other movie where Ron is, punches a guy who's, kind of coming on to her. But, I guess if you kind of draw a comparison of, they would dehumanize a poor person in that way, or, kind of stereotype him as, a brutish, whatever, uncivilized, the same things that we would ascribe to black people back in the 50s and 60s, and earlier, and today even. I guess that kind of adds, again, you just have to put yourself in kind of the psychology of the time, of what these well-to-do white people would think, or these well-to-do rich people would think of this interloper from the boonies with his commie artist friends.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense, I guess. Because they do make comments on him during the party, and they're like, "Oh, he's so tanned."
Yeah. It is really funny that they're commenting on this again, objectively beautiful man.
Yeah, I mean, he's long, tan, and handsome,
brutish.
right? We got Octavius Rex over here.
Oh my god. Yeah, I will say I really did dig the all of the gossipy shade that they were making toward him, and the Mona character toward her, even from the beginning of oh yeah, I can't believe you wore, or Red is so attention grabbing and whatnot.
Yeah, for a widow.
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Those comments were so out of pocket. It's
it's funny. Yeah. It's always funny to hear that kind of viciousness from the 50s.
And Carrie never defends herself too. She just goes, "Oh my."
Yeah.
Oh.
Very you have to be civilized as much as you can, I guess, back then. And that's another thing that she's socially constrained by, is having to deal with these fucking gossipy people who suck, and are
True.
obsessed with the wrong things.
Yeah, I mean, Mona is a very interesting character. It's just funny the way that, that character works. And, we even see her, she has the opportunity to tell one of Carrie's kids, Ned, as he's getting off the train, about, what's his face?
Ron.
Carrie's love guy, Ron. She has the chance to say something, but she just says, "Oh, you going home? Wow, Carrie's looking positively radiant." She just makes some, little offhand comment, but she doesn't, tell him, which is a big thing Carrie was worried about, that they let, her kids would hear about it from, someone other than her. Which, I don't know, it's just, it's weird. Also, the kids' reaction in general, they're like, "The gardener? You're gonna go out with the gardener? Oh, Mom, you can't! Oh!"
Yeah.
But, they're fine with her dating Harvey, who, looks like a man that's, 20 years older than her, right?
At least. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's all right. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, he's respectable, he's more gentlemanly. Even the daughter goes on this long talk about how, he talks about his health, and, that's normal for a man his age, and, he's not, a sex-obsessed man, which she respects or whatever. I think we're supposed to, again,
he's so
they're supposed to be... Yeah, and how you're Freud says that your sex becomes incongruous as you get older, or whatever she says. And I mean that, I think that character is there to provide irony, because then later in the movie, you see her explaining sex to her fiance. She's like, well, this is what sexual attraction's actually like. And she like takes her glasses off. That's really funny.
Yeah. Dude, she says to him, like, actually, the only reason you became a football player was for love. And he's like, oh, really? And she's like, not that type of love. Just the general love, such as familial or parental. You just look for approval.
And he's just like, aren't you cute?
Yeah. She was like, is this making any sense to you? And he was just like, nope, not a word.
But and this is, I think, another theme of the movie is like the kind of academic or like logical whatever versus the natural world. And, her character, right, is like constantly espousing these like very academic perspectives on sex and love and gender and things like that. She talks about like how in Egypt they used to like board up women with their husbands when they died because they were possessions of their husbands and things like that. But then
I don't think that's true, but
yeah. I mean, who knows? But then later in the movie, she breaks down and she's like, I actually have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how to cope with like my feelings. Like she can't be older than like 20. I mean, she's young. And so something else too that is maybe not subtextual, but like is another piece of visual storytelling is the animals that keep showing up, and like they are there to approve their romance, basically. Like the pigeon that kind of like forces Carrie to fall into Ron's arms when they're in the mill, and then it's like sitting there watching them basically throughout the scene after they have their first kiss. And then obviously the deer that's like on Ron's property and that is kind of like watching over them at the very end.
Yeah, it walks up to the window and everything.
Yeah, it's cute. I mean, again, it's like kind of a heavy-handed. It reminded me a little bit of The Departed. If you remember the end of The Departed.
Is that with the rat?
Yeah. Very different use of animals to symbolize something, but just it's straightforward but still effective way of showing,
this is God giving his approval, right?
Not even God, but just like
giving his this is all that heaven allows, putting that right on there.
Boo. I don't think it's even God necessarily. It's just like passion and, like fate and like stop.
More fate.
I'm gonna punch you through the computer.
More punching through the computer.
There's so much editing I'm gonna have to fucking do in this.
More editing.
Stop. God. But no, it's a good way of kind of showing like the romantic, Walden-esque, like true to yourself, true to your like humanity kind of love that they have does fly in the face of all of these very, reserved and like domestic, conformist, whatever types that they're surrounded by in her family and all of her friends and things like that. So just a cute kind of little motif.
Okay, yeah. I'll take it.
You're so down on this movie.
I'm not down on this movie. I just I didn't think it was a bad movie. I did like it. I enjoyed watching it. I think it's a good Christmas flick.
Maybe you should get married and be a housewife, and then maybe your perspective will change.
Yeah, then maybe
and get divorced. Then
you fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Have your husband die, and good luck trying to find a new husband and not be the talk of the town. Yeah, good fucking luck, buddy. You want to go to your socialite gatherings with your new boy toy? Have fun, idiot. He's not a blue blood. Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh my god. This is good podcasting.
This is good podcasting.
I don't know. Yeah, I just think that there's a lot there with, all of the things kind of going on in her life. Even her wardrobe, she kind of goes from wearing like very, and of course the seasons change too, but she goes from wearing these like very particular silhouettes. Like she has like very, like especially the red dress in the beginning, it's like very trim and like clean kind of silhouettes. And then as the movie progresses, she starts to wear these like more kind of like natural silhouettes, or like her clothing is, a lot more just like she is wearing it. It's not wearing her, is how I would compare it. And so she's kind of coming into her own. So I think that there's just a lot to like look at in this movie outside of the dialogue being delivered, that really, makes it an elevated watch for me.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'll give you that for sure. Great wardrobe design.
Yeah. And like
there definitely was a
feel...
shift between like what she wears for others versus what she wears for, I forgot the guy's name again. Ron. Yeah.
Ron. Yeah, because she, like, in the beginning, she's wearing, like, again, like, these, like, very cut, or, like, yeah, corseted kind of clothing, and, like, her, you know, she's wearing, like, these kind of crisp jackets, and very, like, the pointy bra, you know, is a classic, like, 50s thing, too. And then, you know, of course, the red dress at the party, but then as she goes on, she's wearing, like, sweaters and, like, fur coats and kind of looser dresses. You know, she's wearing... when Ron comes to meet the family, she's wearing like this like black kind of like subdued, I mean, it's still like a beautiful, like it's a gorgeous gown, but she's like wearing this much more like relaxed kind of looking, you know, silhouette, but she's still, you can tell that she's still like uncomfortable or anxious with it. Because she, you know, obviously the tension between meeting the family and meeting the you know, at the country club with Ron, it's just like, yeah, there's lots of like a lot of care put into that aspect of things. So
okay, yeah, no, I mean, I feel like this movie maybe would like benefit from a rewatch, at least from my perspective. Again, I do think a lot of it comes down to context, like understanding the context of the time that it's placed within. I mean, you've brought up a lot of good points and a lot of stuff for me to sort of think about with in terms of like watching the movie, with like Ron being like sort of not analogous for like dating a black man, especially like during the time, because that would have been...
No, it would be very different. But like
yeah.
At least some of the drasticness of the dynamic, I think, you know, you can appreciate that more because it's a little bit more maybe obvious, I guess, if you kind of think of it that way.
Yeah, I think it makes their reaction like they react like she's killed someone when she's like, oh, like, I'm going to be dating the gardener. Like, he's a nice man. You've met him.
The kids, like, fuck them kids, right? Like, this is the most fuck them kids movie.
What the fuck? And then, like, 10 minutes later, they're like, actually, we're moving out. We should sell the house, Bob. Here's a TV. Yeah. Like, what? Yeah. What the fuck am I watching here, man?
Truly, truly. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm glad that you... at least enjoyed it on a surface level, but yeah, I think if you're ever open to a rewatch, it'd be a good rewatch.
Yeah, for sure.
I rewatched parts of it this morning too because I was like, I want to see this scene again.
I might put it into the Christmas rotation.
It is a good Christmassy movie. It's very cozy, which I love, especially also, the end. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, you know what? I'd say the end is almost like a hopeful note. I don't know. I know you said it's not like technically a happy ending, I guess, because
I guess
there's definitely a lot for them to sort of work through. Sorry.
Yeah. Your no. I was just gonna say, yeah, it's not like an unhappy ending. Like I don't think it's doomed necessarily. I think the moral or like the thing that she's learned is that she's gonna live for herself, and you know, she's gonna be whether that involves Ron or not. She's going to be prioritizing, you know, her happiness just as much as the happiness of, you know, the society that she lives in, or like her social bonds. You know, she has learned to like choose her own, you know, happiness over the conformity. So yeah, it's hopeful in that regard, even though their relationship might not last.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, I guess it's almost like a little bit more than about that. It's like her growing out of her role as a
widow,
a mother, like a widow, the one who just tends the house.
Right.
Because, like, also, I don't know, her kids seem like really ungrateful, like just kind of like little snots.
Yeah, truly, fuck them kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. So I don't know. Like, they're just fucking weird. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. They suck. They truly suck, especially the son. You know, the daughter, like, she seems like, you know, 19, you know, so it's a little bit easier to be like, okay, you just don't, you think you know everything at this point. But the son is, like, actively callous. Like, he's actively, like, we should sell the house, like, but we can't sell the house because you just want to move on from,
Well, he just, like, dad. Flipped it suddenly. Because, like, before he was like, oh, like, you want to move on from dad. And then when he saw the trophy was put away from the mantle, like, they make a big point of that. And he's like, oh, so, like, so you hate that. So, like, is that a part of the clutter you put away? Oh, okay. So, like, you want me to kill my... It's like, all right, like, no, pause, buddy. Like,
well, that's
not a personal attack.
something we haven't talked about actually or touched on is the fact that someone starts spreading rumors that they were seeing each other before the husband died. That her and Ron, and so I guess that adds an element of that too, of like the kind of nastiness of the rumors is more than just like she's dating Young or she's dating like the gardener.
Right.
It's just like seen as distasteful. Yeah.
That's sort of what destroyed the daughter. And like, I guess that's kind of understandable. I don't know. I guess maybe it's just like the time period and the social class that they were in, like, oh, mother, I heard the worst rumor, and it's like, all right, like, I get it, and like I get that it's just a movie, so it's like that's sort of played up, but like, I don't know, comparing that to like, I guess I'll say comparing the social norms like that they present within this movie to like Carrie, right, which I get is like not really of the same time period, but in my mind they're like closer than like obviously a modern movie and All That Heaven Allows.
This is crazy that you're about
is
to make
this crazy?
A little bit. That's
I mean, I don't know.
Go
like
for
those high schoolers, like, and the shit they went through, like, so vastly different from like.
Oh sure, yeah.
Yeah, and even like the way that they bullied people was like so incredibly different to, like, oh mother. They said that you were cheating on father. It's
okay. Imagine like though if this movie set in the same time period, but was made in 1976 or whatever when Carrie was made, they would depict more. In the 50s, you couldn't. Like the 50s was a locked down period for art, right? Because of all this McCarthyism and things that we're talking about. So that stuff had to be conveyed with subtext. Whereas like if you made a movie about the 50s, in the 70s or even today, you would depict more explicit stuff. And so you might lean into how vicious it was more, whereas you could not do that back then. So like, yeah, I mean, you watch it and you're like, oh, like...
So it is a product of its time, though. Yeah.
Okay. But, and I do think too, it's funny that like, we don't have any friends that have cheated on their significant others in our social circle. I was trying to think of like well, I'm just, you hear about that happening, I guess. I guess we don't have a lot of friends that date each other. But like, yeah, if you think of like talk, I mean, we, the town that we were living in when we lived in the same town, I don't want to say the name, I guess. But like, I'm sure that there are situations where in a friend group, right, like, so-and-so cheats on this other person and, with this third person. And like, now that they're together, this new couple, like I could see them being ostracized. I could see them being kind of like viciously mocked or whatever, especially like at a bar or like a kind of a privater place. Like, I don't think that that's too out of the question, for a person to get broken up about, especially if it's like about your mom, that's pretty. Yeah. So
I guess so. I'll say, well,
no, go ahead.
So my old roommate had like cheated.
Naming names.
Well, maybe bleep that.
Okay.
So she had cheated on her partner, but like they got together. So they got back together. Like they broke it off and got back together like several times. But like her cheating was like a blip in the radar of their relationship. And it was like they were a really odd couple. So I don't know if that's like the best example to give.
I guess I'm thinking like we have a few friends who have trouble with drugs, or like people in our social circle who have had trouble with drugs, and like I can definitely see, I mean, that's a very different thing, but like even just the rumor of that definitely has impacted, right, like the way that some of those people are treated by others within our social circle.
Yeah. I'll say I honestly, I really like, I like drama. Like I like drama. I like the messiness.
Me too.
Right.
We're a couple of queens. It's true. We do.
And like, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, right? Like it's like some people are like, oh, I hate drama. Like, no, drama's fun.
I like when drama doesn't affect me, like in a serious way. I don't like when it's like, oh, like my friends are going through something. But I do like it when it's like, did you hear this shit about this person that I used to work with? Let me tell you.
Right, and it's like, oh yeah, like spill the tea, sis. But like in the same token, right? Fuck, I forget what I was gonna say. 'Cause I was gonna qualify that with something. I like drama, but I don't like spreading rumors. Like, if I hear really juicy drama, like, the person that it's about is not as important as, like, the drama itself. And, like, obviously, if I know the person, like, that gives it, like, stakes, right? It makes me more engaged with it. But, like, I'm not going to go around and tell others about this drama. I mean, maybe I will if it's, like, particularly juicy. But, like,
yeah.
I don't know, like rumors used
you.
in like a like vindictive or like aggressive way versus like a
right.
Like, oh, like, isn't it crazy how like this is happening?
Yeah, yeah. If I was like, oh, I don't know, yeah, I don't, yeah, maybe not.
It's hard to come up with a good example for drama, right?
Well, actually, I was gonna say, did I ever tell you that? I will bleep all of this or cut it out. But
yeah, this is a good bleep, but didn't. So, I mean, I don't know for sure, and I'm not trying to besmirch his, not good name,
his
but
great
his name.
sterling reputation.
Yeah. No, I thought you said and I was like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean.
So, yeah, like, that kind of shit, like, I mean, it's fucking crazy. Like, no wonder you dumbass, and also, fuck you.
How does he meet her is my question.
It's like a 40,000 person town, so probably pretty easily. So
wait, you say 40,000 like person town, like that's not like a pretty decent size for like the physical size of the town.
That's a small town.
Yeah, but like, why are you going out when the? All right, well, you know what? I'm answering my own questions here. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say because it's a disgusting pig, but maybe I will leave this in and just bleep selective parts.
Like, I don't know. I mean, I have to, because the is right by the high school. I walk by the high school every day. I don't think I have had an interaction with high schoolers. And it was when a group of them walked by. All right, let me finish my story. This is funny. Okay, come on.
Go ahead.
A group of them walked by me. The one kid was like, "Hey, how's it going, boss?" And I was like, "Hey, not too bad, boss." And like, all of them started dying. There was like 6 kids there. They immediately start laughing. And like, one of them was like, "Hey, yo, he just called you boss." And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm trying to match your energy, kids. Like, what the fuck's happening?
They thought you were 35 years old. They were like, this old guy said our slang.
True. Oh. Yeah. It's horrible getting old. I mean, of course, I'm also like walking outside with like disgusting raggedy chin hair, fucking like unkempt little fucking mustache, bags under my eyes for days. But
I really, anyone listening to this, if you don't know what Ricky looks like, I would like you to submit a drawing based on what you know so far, that he looks like Wes Anderson, he watches anime, and he has scraggly chin hair.
Oh god, no, I'm gonna be like a neckbeard.
Straggly chin hair isn't neckbeard. Those are two. There's like two. It's like a spectrum. I mean, it's horseshoe theory in the end.
Right.
Okay, we've really lost the plot.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Let's circle back.
Stop. There's definitely a difference between like indulging in gossip or like whatever, and then spreading rumors, I guess, for to keep somebody in their place. I think those are two different things. Yeah, like I don't know. Maybe I'm just justifying my own poor vices, but
wow,
nothing
wrong with it.
I love to spill tea. Do you have anything else? Anything else about this movie?
Not really. Is there anything else that I missed in the film? I mean, there's lots, I'm sure, but
I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't know that you missed it necessarily. You just you were watching the movie differently than I was, I guess. So that's okay. You're allowed to just watch movies. You don't have to go in with like looking for subtext and camera angles and color and all of these things.
Yeah, no, I'm valid.
You're valid. It's true. No, I really like this movie. I think I'll watch it again. I think it definitely, like you said, belongs in a Christmas rotation. Mm-hmm. I do, even with all the subtext and things, I do love to just see people kiss and like have romance on screen. Another thing that like as a kid or as a younger person I wouldn't have been as enjoyed or wouldn't have enjoyed as much, but it is just like a romance is just nice sometimes to see people like have passion for each other. So
yeah, no, and I mean, those are the parts of the movie that I didn't really talk about anything that I liked about the movie, but like the like it's a sort of basic plot line, right? At least in my mind, and I guess it is narratively like pretty
Yeah,
straightforward.
it's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
But like that's not bad. It's nice. I liked it. It's like a cute little film. And like I'm really sort of viewing it through the lens of like, oh, like this is just like a little old film about romance, and like a man that won't change his ways, and a woman who needs to learn to let go of not her social graces, but like her ties to high society, I guess, which are really tying her down, and making her miserable. Maybe not directly, but
no, they are. I think directly making her miserable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a good movie. I'm glad we watched it.
Yeah. I liked it. I feel like I say that about every movie.
Hey, Ensemble. Oh, you liked that movie too.
I
remember
that
that
one.
movie.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
Well, anyway, would you be open to other like 50s movies like this?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to get a better idea of like the time period, like understanding the sort of context for these movies.
Yeah.
But yeah. We'd definitely be down to watch more 50s movies.
Sweet. Yeah. All right. Well, oh, I have to ask you something. Is it Rick's pick, as in he picked this movie, or Rick's pick as in pick for picture? As I was writing out the description, I wrote in Rick's pick, and I was like, wait, is this did we come up with something clever here? Could this be two different meanings?
So I've always been saying it like Rick's pick, like with a K.
Yeah.
Although we can do Rick's pick just to see.
I mean, I don't think it's that consequential, but
I think it's pretty consequential.
Well, this week is a Rick's pick, whether that's
there's consequences to this action.
There are.
Okay, so I'll give you sort of the option. Would you want to watch another animated movie, which I can get if we don't want to keep flip flopping back and forth between that, or
right.
just a movie that I've seen before and would be revisiting.
What are the genre?
So, I do kind of want to watch The Fifth Element. I haven't seen it in a long time, but like, I liked it as a teenager. I feel like I'll like it now. And it's just sort of like a funny movie. It's just like a fun movie. And the other one would be the animated movie would be Lupin the Third.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know, Lupin is like classic animated movie. Love Lupin. Lupin the Third. Love Lupin. It's sort of like I don't even think it's a cult classic. Like this is just like a classic movie, or like a classic animated film.
Yeah, totally. People love that movie.
Yeah, it's really good actually. Like the first time I watched it, because there are like, and especially like some of the Ghibli films, I feel like are really lauded for their spectacle, but sometimes the storyline gets like a little muddled. Not all of them. A lot of them are like really clear cut, but some of them are sort of like really fanciful and odd, like the lesser known ones, I guess. But they're still like associated with the Ghibli name, so they're like, oh, like this is peak. Whereas like Lupin the Third is peak anime. That shit is so good, and it's like a lot of like even just the small scenes, how they show like certain action scenes are indicative of like all other, or like not all other, but a lot of other. It sets the precedent for other anime.
Interesting, yeah, because it's Miyazaki's first, right? His first like directorial feature. Am I making that up?
Oh, is this Miyazaki? Oh, I guess it is.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I think it's his first big movie, unless Nausicaa came first. No, it did. Yeah, it is.
I think this is his first. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So
I'd be open to either. I'll say.
Okay.
I'll let you. Yeah. But you have to choose. I will say, like, I think Lane will have very different energy for those two movies, but we're gonna cover them both eventually, so we can do whatever. We've had a good streak of movies I've liked, so why not fuck that up with The Fifth Element?
No, let's watch Lupin the Third. I think you'd really like it.
No, We can watch The Fifth Element if you want to just rewatch it. I'm cool with that.
No,
Chris has been down my throat about it.
Wow, I really like Lupin the Third. I think this would be a good one. It's like,
it's up to you. I don't mind.
No, this is a classic. Also, like, as long as you're fine with just like going back to anime.
Yeah,
I know you're trying to sort of like spread out a little bit with it. Okay, cool.
No. I think these are they're very different movies. I mean, Lupin the Third is from 1979, so it's a full 15 years, almost from Roshan Z. So I mean, they're very different.
So with that, I will say that I think it'd be funny to contrast this with another Lupin the Third movie.
Okay.
If you're willing to,
two movies.
Do we want to do a double special or like
a twofer?
A twofer.
So like, are we doing like another Lupin the Third in like the series? Because I see that there's like a ton of them.
Yeah. So Lupin the Third is sort of like, so Castle of Cagliostro came out, I believe, first, and there was like a sort of serialized animated series that came out, like a serialized anime. I'm pretty sure. I haven't seen that one, but I'm pretty sure there was like an episodic sort of thing, and then there's been like 5 or 6 different movies that have come out during that time.
I was gonna say,
and they all have sort of like different numbering systems, and they're really sort of loosely tied to each other. It's just
I see that one came out in 2019, and it's called Lupin the Third, the First.
Yeah.
Cool.
They're really sort of like kind of loosely tied to each other, and it establishes like an odd like cinematic universe, like Lupin the Third cinematic universe, which I'm sure people have like charts laid out for and like different ideas about or whatever. But on the whole, they're all just kind of like oh, like this is like your cast of like suave action members.
Yeah.
And like, here's a movie about them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the other one?
So the other one is a direct departure from this one. So like, Castle of Cagliostro is sort of like lighthearted, cheery, and at least in my eyes, and it's just like a sort of nice little rabble-rousing adventure. The other one is one that I really love. I mean, I love Castle of Cagliostro as well, but the blood spray of Gomon Ishikawa. If you just look up Gomon Spray of Blood, you'll find it. And this focuses on the swordsman of the group, and it's raw as fuck. It's sick as fuck, bro. Every scene is awesome. It's fucking amazing. But it's almost kind of a slow burn. It's like a Yakuza drama, I guess, that builds up to like a just cool as fuck fight scene. There's a couple of really cool fight scenes in it, but the animation is like very different between the two. So the blood spray of Goemon is like much more recent. It's 2017, and so you'll be able to see like the difference in like animation quality between the two.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The focus and themes of both movies are very different, but it gives you like the opposite ends of the spectrum of like Lupin the Third, which I think is sort of like cool to see, because there's a lot to sort of fall in the middle of this where they sort of like lean more on Lupin being comedic or being more like serious and sort of like a suave adventurer type.
Okay, all right. Don't blow your load.
I know. Yeah. We have all of next week to talk about it, but I think this will be a good way to sort of compare and contrast.
You and your comparing and contrasting.
I love it. I'm
Clearly.
the comparator.
Do you have one that I should watch first? Like, should we do it in chronological? Like, watch the first one first? The earlier one?
Definitely watch Castle of Cagliostro first. I think it's a bit better of a movie, maybe. But like, it's a better introduction to the characters. And then like once you sort of know the characters, when you watch the later one, you'll be like, oh shit, okay, like it all kind of makes sense, and like some of the gags that they do are like repeated, and like they're just repeated throughout all time for these characters, which is cool. I like it. They embody certain character archetypes, but we can talk about that next week.
Sweet. All right, I'm excited. I've definitely had this, at least the Castle of Cagliostro, on my watch list for a really long time. So, yeah, that'll be fun.
Hell yeah!
It's one of the last Miyazakis I haven't seen.
Sheesh.
So, yeah, cool.
All right, sweet. So
Take us
next
out.
week we want to watch Lupin the Third, Castle of Cagliostro. Do.
You forgot the second movie we're gonna watch.
And Lupin the Third, the blood spray of Goemon Ishikawa. Do.
I think I'll cut in the Old Town Road that you did earlier.
Oh, okay,
Something.
not bad.
I don't know, or maybe the Nintendo, the Mario song that you did.
You could also do the more passion, more energy, more editing, more. We'll see.
God, all right.